39,000 years ago, a primitive tribe of wild, robust Neanderthals celebrated the beginning of a new species. Visitors from a distant planet united with their tribe. Together they created the great empire of Atlantis, the motherland of all modern humans. Atlantis and the Egyptian priest. The Atlantis Motherland book reveals that the history of Atlantis actually came from Egypt. In 590 BC, a very old Egyptian priest, named Sanches, revealed the exact location, history, physical description. Destruction of Atlantis, to Solon, who was the wisest of the 7 Greek sages. Sanches gave a transcript of these historical records to Solon. 180 years later, the history of Atlantis was recorded in the dialogues of Plato, titled Critias and Timaeus. Beautiful Blue Planet Tribe. The aged Egyptian priest took Solon back to the very beginning of the history of Atlantis. He told Solon about the first inhabitants of Atlantis, and presented a very detailed description of the geography of the land where Atlantis was founded. The Atlantis Motherland book matches every detail of the features of Atlantis, described in Egyptian records, with the location of Atlantis in southern Ukraine and Krasnodar Krai in southern Russia.
This is an aerial view of Atlantis. This is on the Crimea side. It's not there anymore, but you can see the remains of it.
The magnificent city of Atlantis was located on the northern shore of a great sea. The mountains along the southern shoreline rose precipitously from the sea. Atlantis City was built in a perfect circle, which was over 14 miles wide. It was protected by an outer wall that was 46 miles long. An extensive canal system brought fresh water into the city, and the waterways served as an elaborate transportation system. The city of Atlantis was surrounded by 60,000 small islands, which were the farming lots created by the canal system. Large quantities of produce, animals, forest products, minerals and metals were brought by boat into the city from the farming lots and the surrounding mountains. On the center island of the ancient metropolis, a channel, about 6 miles long, extended from the central islands to the sea. The major canals of the incredible ditch, which surrounded the entire fertile farmlands of Atlantis, met at the end of the channel from the city. They all came together where the outer walls met at the sea. This was the outer harbor where ships waited to gain entrance into the inner harbors, located within the heavily fortified city of Atlantis. Plato's Atlantis dialogues revealed that Atlantis was founded on a hill about 6 miles from the sea, in the center of the southern edge of a vast, flat, level, and oblong-shaped fertile plain. The plain looked to the south and faced a magnificent sea. A Innumerable rivers meandered across the fertile plain, forming lakes and marshes. The plain was sheltered from the cold northern blasts of the Ice Age by the strongest magnetic anomaly on Earth. In 9600 BC, the burgeoning military-minded, male-dominated aristocracy of the Empire of Atlantis sought to subjugate the freedom-loving, ecologically friendly, and equality-minded Athenians. This began a great war between the two empires. Battles raged throughout the provinces, and then as the Athenians were marching against the mighty city of Atlantis, Mother Nature wrought a dramatic end to the hostilities, the combatants, and their empires. Suddenly, the magnificent city of Atlantis was destroyed by an earthquake. Earthquake, and the island of Atlantis sank into the sea, and the modest homes and fertile farmlands of the Hellenes were washed into the sea by an extraordinary inundation, which left only a remnant of Attica, flanked. The Great Atlantis Flood theory presents evidence which supports the truth of the history of Atlantis. We propose that the dialogues of Plato present an accurate account of geological events occurring in 9600 BC in the Black Sea-Mediterranean corridor. Extending from the Caspian Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. Glacial meltwaters, at the end of the Younger Dryas Ice Age, raised the level of the Caspian Sea. 1. An earthquake caused the managed Kerch Gateway 2 to fracture, allowing the Caspian Sea to break. Into the farmlands of Atlantis. 3. Simultaneously, they caused the Atlantean farmlands to sink, thus increasing the intensity of the floodwaters from the Caspian Sea. The island of Atlantis disappeared beneath the floodwaters which filled the As of As of depression, the earthquake and resulting tsunami washed away diverse islands. 4. In the Black Sea. 5. The earthquake and tsunami also caused the Black Sea to flood into Attica. 6. Via the Sakarya River Delta and or to burst up through a proposed subterranean outflow channel, causing the farmlands of Attica and Hellas. 7. To be washed away into the Mediterranean Sea. 8. The Great Atlantis Flood of 9600 BC. The aged Egyptian priest presents an accurate account of the torrential flooding which occurred 9,000 years before Solon's journey to Egypt. The priest displayed an uncanny knowledge of history by citing the date for the catastrophic destruction of Atlantis at 9600 BC. This date coincides with scientific evidence of catastrophic global flooding at the end of the Younger Dryas Ice Age in exactly 9600 BC. Abrupt climate change, GDGC, NOAA scientific evidence of the Great Floods. An aged Egyptian priest set the date for the destruction of the Empire of Atlantis and the Empire of the Hellenes at 11,600 years ago, 9,600. Abrupt cooling about 15,000 years ago gives way to abrupt warming at the end of the Younger Dryas period, some 11,600 years ago, with a climatic ripple effect impacting habitats around the world. Glacial ice melt caused the level of the Black Sea and Caspian Sea to rise dramatically. One, Bosporus Land Bridge 2, Sakarya River Delta 3, Manich Kerch Gateway 4, Caspian Sea 5, Atlantis 6, Black Sea 7. Hellas glacial ice melt from a vast drainage area caused the water level of the Black Sea and the Sea to rise dramatically at the end of the Younger Dryas Ice Age in 9600 BC. The water levels of the landlocked Caspian and Black Seas rose at a much faster rate than the level of the world oceans. The Black Sea was only 20 meters below its current level in 9.600 BC due to this torrential flooding. The catastrophe begins when an earthquake suddenly destroys the city of Atlantis one beautiful morning in 9600 BC. A devastating impulse rupture earthquake suddenly hit Kerch, Crimea, Ukraine, the ancient location of the city of Atlantis. The tectonics of the Kerch Peninsula reveal evidence of this catastrophic earthquake. The city of Atlantis was immediately leveled. The earthquake caused the southern portion of the island of Atlantis, north of the city, to drop 8 to 10 meters, forming the Sea of Atlantis. Depression. Just the day before, the mighty city of Atlantis was a thriving metropolis, where people were laughing, crying, being born and dying, waging war and praying for peace. They were all suddenly silenced. The area surrounding the city of Kerch, site of ancient Caspian, Mithridat Hill, is located on orogene formation. This is a stable area of original Earth crust. The city did not sink because it is located on this orogene formation. The Copet tectonic thrust. The Copet tectonic thrust fault runs along the northern edge of Kerch Peninsula in Crimea and the Taman Peninsula in Russia. Rupture zones run along the northern coast of the Kerch Peninsula and also transverse to it in the Kerch Strait in the Kazantip Peninsula. Scientific Scientific evidence reveals that an earthquake, estimated at magnitude 8.9, hit Crimea during the late Pleistocene or early Holocene. The date of 9600 BC rests comfortably within the middle of this time frame. See Refs 1.
This is it before. With the canals and the farmland and the waterways and all this. Then, after the flood, it looked like this. See? It was inundated, and it looks like mud and silts filled in right here. There was canals right there. And right here, to block the waterway here. That's what it said. I don't know this thing here.
Sea of Atlantis was a vast well-watered plain, covered with fertile alluvial soil, before 9600 BC. This wide expanse was an inviting habitat where the island of Atlantis was created by the excavation of a navigable ditch around the fertile plain. The earthquake caused the major portion of the plain to sink. The earthquake generated massive tidal waves in the Black Sea. The tidal waves met flood of waters overflowing from the Caspian Sea and created a churning backlash which inundated the island of Atlantis. These giant waves drove inland, inundating the provinces and sending waves up the river channels, which were already swollen from the glacial meltwaters. The fertile plain disappeared beneath the sea, just as described by the sacred Egyptian records. Plato's diet present an accurate geological account of how the Sea of Atlantis was formed. The diverse islands were located on the broad continental shelf in the northwestern Black Sea, Danube Delta area. The waves from the tsunami washed away these islands and their inhabitants. The Egyptian priest accurately described the creation of the original archipelagos, which was the ancient name of the islands in the Aegean Sea. He accurately described the geological transformation of the former Aegean fertile plain into the modern Aegean Sea. This description is supported by scientific evidence that the area of the Aegean Sea was above sea level in 9600 BC. How could these events have been so accurately recorded in ancient times, unless the sacred Egyptian records actually existed?